Okay. Hello everyone. Peveshev, Mene Wostatnanehav. My name's Crystal Tubles. I'm Oglala Lakota, Northern Cheyenne. I'm also the Land Back Director, or the Director of the Land Back Campaign for NDN Collective. I just got out of my hearing this morning. We're here at the Pennington County Courthouse. You know, we've been here all week, starting on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, where, you know, Natani Meads and several other land defenders have had their preliminary hearings as well, where we basically plea and then we hear what our charges are and what we're being accused of. And so far, everyone has been, there's been additional charges added on to everybody's. They're adding impeding a highway. And so myself, I'm looking at 4 misdemeanors, you know, disorderly conduct, unlawful assembly, impeding a highway, and failure to vacate. You know, and Natani said it perfectly well when he did his live a couple days ago. He said, I'm not going to plead guilty for being on my own land. And I think that we all carry that same value and that same principle with us as we go into these hearings. You know, we have continued hearings that are going to be going on. We have more on Monday. I think 5 more land defenders will be heard on Monday. And then we have some on September 4th, September 11th. So we will continue to show up here to the court. We'll continue to be here for each other. And I just want to talk a little bit about being a Native veteran as well, and some of the weird dynamics that came up with this as far as militarization, and the fact that the U.S. military, the Air National Guard, was deployed on U.S. soil, you know, to address in full riot gear land defenders. And so, you know, as a Native veteran and as a veteran myself, I think that's fucked up that they're here and that they were deployed on us for simply being on our own lands and for asserting our rights to defend our own lands. And so that's a whole dynamic that I personally feel needs to be addressed and be part of the conversation as well. Also, you know, being the director of the Land Back campaign, you know, stay tuned for our rollout and what that's going to look like in the coming weeks, in the coming months, of what our campaign is going to actually be. But for now, thinking about Land Back and about our campaign, obviously the Black Hills is the cornerstone of that, in that we acknowledge the long-standing legacy of all of the work and all of the organizing and the sacrifice that has been going on to get us to this point. And we, as young people, are also here saying, like, we're here to help and to support and to continue to push that narrative of land back forward, not just for here in the Black Hills, but for all Indigenous peoples that were removed from their lands. When we think about it, you know, land back is not just a campaign, it's a political framework, it's a narrative framework, and it's an organizing framework that we are working from. When we think about all of the systems of oppression and the symptoms of oppression that Indigenous peoples experience in our communities, we're looking at like suicide rates, homicide, gang violence, dropout rates, lack of access to good quality education, lack of access to good quality health care in the middle of a pandemic. Our communities are the ones getting hit the hardest. And so I think it's important to think about the fact that all of those symptoms of oppression that we experience can be traced back to when we were removed from our lands. And the systems that are actually systemically oppressing us still actively by criminalizing us in these legal systems were built on top of those stolen lands. And in fact, it was the U.S. military that was formed around Indigenous resistance that was removing us from our lands. So in my mind, everything that we do as far as organizing goes, we have to always carry that narrative of land back. We can trace it all the way back to that. And if we want to get at the roots and we want to get at real change, then we have to take it all the way back to the roots, all the way back to land back, when we were removed from our land. And so that's, in my mind, where all of this goes back to, is really that. And, you know, we will continue to organize. I just want to thank everyone that has reached out to all of the land defenders, myself, to Nick, for all of the support. whether that has been donating to our Black Hills Legal Fund. You can continue to do so at blackhillslegalfund.org, or whether that was the petitions. We have currently 3 petitions that are floating around through our social media. We have a petition that's basically demanding the closure of Mt Rushmore, and that is also demanding that all public lands be returned back to its original stewards. We are also having petitions that are demanding that the state prosecutor drop the charges against Nick. We have one more petition that is demanding that they drop the charges against all of the land defenders, period. So those 3 petitions will be added into the chat as well. But we're asking for folks to continue to support us in those ways by donating to the Black Hills Legal Fund, blackhillslegalfund.org, sign the 3 petitions, and to continue to stand with us and to stay tuned for more things that are coming up. We're actively working on developing out this campaign. NDN Collective has so many different components that is active in our communities as well. So we ask that you continue to support that. And stay tuned for more actions, because this fight for our land back is not going anywhere. We're not stopping. Still talk about that. Okay, so we're actually right here, outside the Pennington County Courthouse, but also this is kind of where things started before July 3rd. Is we came here and we actually did a small show of solidarity to our relatives that are actually imprisoned here and jailed here. I think there's definitely been a lot that I've been coming to in this conversation of being criminalized. And so, I myself know what it's like to be targeted and know what it's like to be criminalized for simply trying to have a voice on my own lands and to defend my own lands and my own territory, whether that's from pipelines, whether that's from extraction, whether that's from trespassing, of people. But I know what that's like to be criminalized, and I think that the continued support really helps, and that we have to continue showing support to our relatives that we see here that are also criminalized. It's part of a larger systemic system that is actually criminalizing us and saying that it is wrong to do these things and to stand up for our rights. But we are hoping that Land Back campaign incorporates that idea of we are not just fighting simply for our land back. Yes, we are doing that, and that is the cornerstone, but also we are saying that this is a larger problem of dismantling white supremacy. And that is part of the political narrative that we're holding within the Land Back campaign as well. And so I just wanted to kind of bring it back to this moment of when we were here, and just continuing to remember our relatives that are being criminalized in here, and remembering them as we go forward with this campaign. Can I say anything else? The other thing?